Hello everyone, this is POW Ponder on Weather. In this update, we've got a huge storm coming with severe weather, tornadoes, ice, and some heavy snow. So if you do like weather-related content, please subscribe to my channel as I will upload daily updates to keep you ahead of the storm. Good morning everyone. Let's take a look at the overall satellite picture this morning. I really expanded it so you can definitely see where this storm is coming from. It's way out here off the Aleutian Islands out here, and it's a formidable storm already, and that is going to be traversing across eastward in the coming days into parts of Western Canada by the time we get into Monday and the Pacific Northwest, and that's going to be diving southward towards the Four Corners regions, and then it's going to make another turn eastward, going over parts of Texas and the Mississippi and Tennessee Valley with widespread, looks like to be severe weather. And just to the north of there, of that surface low, that's where snow and heavy snow is going to be breaking out. And some of that could be in the form of ice as well. So let's talk about the details with this system. Let's first highlight the winds, because this morning, you can actually see this storm out here. It's already packing some hurricane force wind gust out here. So it's definitely already a formidable storm. And all these areas here in parts of the U.S. where we did have that cold front that's still progressing southward with some higher wind gusts right now in Texas and parts of Oklahoma, and also in parts of Missouri as well as Illinois this morning. And there's some even higher some wind gusts down here in the Caribbean as well. So let's kind of zoom in on what's happening today. So today we've got a lot of, that cold fronts continue to push southward into Texas, reaching the Houston area. Back behind it, there is a little bit of lift. So there are experiencing some little bit of light, very light scattered shower activity in and around the Dallas-Fort Worth area, but a little bit heavier amounts with a little bit more lift once you get south of there into parts of southeast Texas, where they could be having some little bit heavier scattered showers today. But there's that cold front will continue to progress southeast, and back behind it, we do have some snow bands breaking out in parts of North Dakota as well as into Iowa. And then you also have some lake enhanced induced snowfall as well. So as we continue the view into your Super Bowl Sunday, there's that system with some snow over portions of Ohio, getting into West Virginia, up here in New Jersey, along the Long Island here. We're not talking heavy amounts whatsoever. I mean, anywhere from a trace to possibly 1 to 2 inches, and some isolated 3-inch amounts is probably not out of the question, but not really any more than that as this system continues to push off the coast. But yeah, there's that cold front. So by the time you wake up on Sunday morning there, yeah, we got 81% of the U.S. into a freeze. That's some cold stuff, and more widespread with all those reds reaching all the way down in deep south of Texas, reaching into Louisiana, going into Mississippi, as well as Alabama. So there's a lot of areas that are going to be experiencing that cold blast into the day on Sunday morning. So as we get into your Monday, Valentine's Day, there's that cold front, and there's the surface low well offshore by then, taking all the precipitation left with it. The only thing that's really left is just kind of those lake enhanced snow bands out here in portions Michigan, as well as upstate New York and around the Toronto area. But all of our eyes are going to be turning to into the Pacific Northwest, as it's, this quickly modifies, this Arctic outbreak, this Arctic front just quickly modifies and kind of rebounds on the day on Monday. So it's a one-day hit in Texas, and you're back into the 70-degree range. And then we got some portions of some rain entering the picture with that surface low from the Aleutian Islands getting into the Pacific Northwest by then. So yeah, you could have some lighter rain showers in places like Vancouver, into Seattle, going into Portland, and where you get into the interior regions and some of the higher elevations, some of that could be in the form of snow going to be flying underneath that area of instability. So as we continue the view, you can definitely see that piece of energy going to be diving southward as we get into the day on Tuesday, that 15th time frame. And now it's going to be highlighting over portions of the Sierra Nevada going into Nevada here. Underneath that, you got some snow, so it's going to be snowing again into the mountain regions here and up here into the higher elevations, as well as into Nevada here. Then also Idaho and portions of Montana, just basically east of this surface low, and pretty dry, further out west. So all the instability is going to be your east side of the system. Then as this continues to dive, here's your jet stream by the time we get into that Wednesday. So that's when things start to really get interesting, as that powerful surface low over the Aleutian Islands right now will go across into Western Canada, dive southward, hit essentially Arizona, and then makes a beeline towards the eastward. And then it has a lot of lift associated with it too. So now we got a powerful jet racing across Texas with a lot of lift, and that could be setting the stage for some storms, and some of those could be on the severe side. And just to the north of there, we've got that surface low that's going to be developing. So we're going to be having some snow breaking out into New Mexico, going into Colorado by then, but you can really see it on the water vapor transport index as we get into the day on Wednesday. As like I mentioned, that after that Arctic front goes through on today, winds turn around quickly in a big way, and then you rapidly warm up into the 70s. So you got plenty of fuel as these winds and these higher dew points will be able to tap into at that point. And that's a lot of water vapor that's going to be surging from the Gulf into Texas. And there's that surface low. So there's that surface low. And just to the north of there, you're going to have some snow flying into portions of the Panhandle, but definitely heavier amounts as you get in towards the Rocky Mountains and get into portions of Denver area, where they've been really behind on the snowfall this year. So, but as this system, moves across, there it is on the 500 millibar, the winds are going to be rapidly developing. We're talking 75 to 85 knots winds at 500 millibars. So there's going to be a lot of updraft with this system as this continues to race across Texas, going into Arizona, Oklahoma, into portions of Louisiana. By the time we get into that Wednesday night time frame, and your CAPE values by then, your convective available potential energy in the atmosphere, are also going to be surging as well. So now we're getting in close to 1,000 JKGs here. These are the units of the amount of energy that's going to be available in the atmosphere. So yes, the Storm Prediction Center has already highlighted a slight risk for severe weather going into the day on Wednesday night, possibly into the overnight hours. So for areas within the Dallas-Fort Worth area, going as far south as Waco, into Lufkin, portions of Shreveport, into Little Rock, as far north as Tulsa, into Oklahoma City, this whole area in yellow here is going to be highlighted for severe weather by then, as all the dynamics look to be coming together. Even this far out, they have enough guidance saying, hey, this is going to be a severe risk as we get into the day on Wednesday night. So as we expand the view, there's that surface low. There's Wednesday afternoon, right? So we got the developing surge from that water vapor that's going to be entering parts of North Texas. There's your low pressure system that's developing, and just to the north of there, that's where the snow is going to be flying into New Mexico, into Colorado. That'll eventually get into portions of Denver, and then lifting northward into Wyoming as well. And so as we continue to expand and go into the overnight hours, sometime on Wednesday night going into Thursday morning, there's the surface low really starting to intensify. Now we got heavier rain and stronger to severe thunderstorms breaking out into North Texas, into East Texas, Louisiana, into Arkansas, into Missouri. And there's northwest of the surface low. There's where your snow is going to be flying by then, reaching into, moving eastward into Denver, going into the Panhandle of Oklahoma, get into portions of Kansas here, as well as Missouri. And then you're also going to have to be dealing with some ice as you get into places in Missouri and Illinois and portions of Michigan here. And just to the north of there, you've got that heavier snow. So as we continue the view and going deeper into the day on Thursday, I think that's when the storm really starts to intensify. We've got an extreme amount of water vapor coming off the Gulf here, and just to the north, there's that surface low with some heavier snow starting to break out into Missouri, getting into central Illinois, going into Michigan here. As underneath, we've got a lot of heavier rain. We could be looking at some flooding and rotating supercell thunderstorms by then, and that's when I think things start to turn tornadic, unfortunately, because a lot of shear is going to be really in place as you get into Louisiana, into Mississippi, into Alabama, and to Tennessee here. And the Storm Prediction Center has already highlighted, even again, this far out, guys, of another slight risk for severe weather. So I do expect these probably going to be intensifying as we kind of get closer. So right now we're just highlighting the area of a potential impact by the time we get into that Thursday time frame. So yeah, places into Louisiana, going into Mississippi, and to all the way in, extending into Birmingham, into Tennessee, and reaching all the way into portions of Kentucky by then, into Arizona, as well as portions of Missouri is going to be under the gun for that severe weather as we get into the day on Thursday. And like I mentioned, some of those could be all three modes of severe weather, including those tornadoes with those rotating atmosphere. And as we continue into the overnight hours, there's the heavier rain. So I'm expecting a lot of heavy rain into this region, and that's where the heavier snow is going to be breaking out just to the north of there, extending a little bit further south into Indiana by now, and going into Michigan, and then lifting all the way up into Canada. And then it's going to be all rain going into places like Pennsylvania, as well as upstate New York into that Thursday night, Friday morning time frame. But man, look at the water vapor transport injury by then. I mean, this is an extreme amount of Gulf surge coming from the south. So I mean, this is basically off the charts. So a lot of dynamics are really coming together to look to be a multi-state severe weather threat coming Wednesday into that Thursday time frame. So I'm definitely concerned about those 2 days for severe weather for a good chunk of this area into the United States, especially as you get into portions of the Mississippi Valley as well as the Tennessee Valley here. Definitely concerned, have even a little bit greater concern in this area for dynamic supercell thunderstorms. But we got winds associated with it too. So this is a powerful trough coming in with a lot of energy and a lot of pull, and they get higher dew points by then. We've got it's plenty warm to the south of there, so you got plenty of fuel to fuel these storms, and then you're going to be dealing with all that higher winds as well. So yeah, definitely, if you're a truck driver having to traverse across the U.S., I mean, you got to be all hands on deck and watch for this. Especially as we get into that Wednesday, Thursday, Friday time frame as you're out here in this region, because man, it's going to be extremely windy. You're going to have to be dealing with a lot of severe weather in this region. So definitely, I'm highlighting this well in advance and letting you know of the potentials that's on the table as extending as we get into the middle of next week. And so here's your overall range. So like I mentioned, it's going to be initiating off the Pacific Northwest, but it's not going to have that much lift with it until it gets into portions of Texas. And then once it gets into central Texas and North Texas and East Texas, I think that's when the heavier storms start to break out, and then some heavier rain with that extreme amount of water vapor pulling in from the Gulf. We could be looking at some multi-inch rains compounding with this system, as well as some of those could be some flooding rains as well. And then here's your overall ice threat with the blend of all the models right now. So yeah, in the middle of that deformation zone, you're going to have the snow in the north, but you're going to have that window where you could be dealing with some ice in portions of Kansas, into Missouri, into Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, as well as getting into portions of Canada here. And then there's your snow amounts right now with the blend of kind of all the models, with some lighter amounts getting into the Pacific Northwest, some snow coming back in the picture into Idaho, into Montana, as well as Wyoming, and then getting back into the Colorado Rockies and portions of Denver here. I think it reaches far south as the Texas Panhandle, with possibly an inch or two into portions of New Mexico as well. But as this traverses across into Oklahoma and Kansas, some of the heavier snow amounts, I think, really starts to pick up into portions of Missouri, into Iowa, into Illinois, and portions of northern Indiana, and especially as we get into Michigan with definitely some heavier snow amounts for later on this week. So hey, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video and definitely leave your comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel to catch the latest update where I protect you before and after storm.